All right, this is going to be my support tier list for patch 13.6. Honestly, not a whole lot of changes in general in this patch, as well as just specifically to the support role, but we'll go over it anyways. As always, this is how the win rates were at the end of 13.5, and then what I'll be doing, taking a look at the changes and then adjusting it accordingly. One thing I do need to point out right away, Milio was not in last patch, so that should not actually be there quite yet. We'll put them down here. We'll readjust it. But that's where we're starting off. Win rates from last patch. We're going to look at the changes and adjust things accordingly. Let's go ahead and get started. This patch, again, not a lot going on. We have the Yumi changes. Yumi nerfs. A small buff to Ashe, as well as the new addition to Milio. Also, just want to kind of wrap up some thoughts about previous changes because sometimes I was right in my predictions, sometimes I was wrong. The Yumi changes. Let's start there. Actually, you know what? Let's start with Ashe because she's all the way up here at the top. Last patch, a couple weeks ago, when I looked at the changes that they did to Ashe, I said Ashe support is no longer going to be meta. And I think I was somewhat correct there. I had her down here in not meta, but she's sitting at a 48% win rate with still close to a 4% pick rate. Champions that I consider not meta are champions that just don't see a whole lot of success in solo queue, and on top of that, they're not played a whole lot, so they shouldn't be considered a meta pick. Ashe, I think, shouldn't be meta, but people still haven't wrapped their head around the fact that she's not gonna be a good meta support anymore. She's still getting a lot of play rate, and for that reason, instead of having her down in not meta, I'm gonna include her here. Again, a 48% win rate. Not a champion that should be on the bench, but technically one of the lower end supports in the game. She is going to get some buffs this time around just because I think they overdid it last time with the nerfs. So this little bit of a buff here should help her out a little bit, but it's not like she's going to go back to being a meta support and being up here somewhere. I think she'll still remain to be weak. This might bump her up like a percentage point, but she'll still remain in weak. I'll just go ahead and play it safe. I'll put her kind of like right in the middle here of the weak supports. Still not going to be meta. I don't recommend playing her. I think they want her to stay more as an ADC rather than a support. But if people are going to continue to play her, I'll at least include her on the list here. The other changes that we have, let's scroll all the way down here to Yumi. So Yumi's an interesting one because we had the rework that came out last patch. And where I had Yumi was going to be somewhere here in the 48 to 49% win rate. And that was for a couple reasons. One, I thought she was going to be weak. But also, anytime there is a new champion or a new rework that is introduced into the game, people are going to have to learn how to play that champion. And so, with that in mind, the champion's going to lose a lot more games just because people don't know how to play her. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's weak. That just means that people are still learning. So with that in mind, with the fact that it was a rework and people were still learning, she still had a 50% win rate, which is very uncommon for a new champion or a new rework. So I think with time, if she were to stay in the state that she was in, she'd probably climb up to like the 51, 52% win rate as people kind of learn to perfect this new kit. They are aware of that. They want to prevent that from happening. And so there's already some nerfs coming in. The Q, I think the main issue with the Q is, yes, it's a little bit harder to hit now, which gets rid of some of the frustration. But when it does land, it was just accomplishing too much. So they're adjusting a lot of things here. Q cooldown decrease, mana cross increase, missile speed decrease, range decrease. So overall, the Q is just too overwhelming. So they're kind of bringing it down a lot. And I think that is important because the champion is still frustrating to play against, and the Q is a big reason for that. Also, looks like they're nerfing the ultimate, so shield duration is added, bonus resistances decrease, or maybe more of a adjustment there more than anything, but still seems like kind of a nerf. Overall, I think Yumi being 50% was simply too high. They want this champion to be for newcomers, not for something that you see in higher ranks or too much in solo queue. So if she were to stay in her current state, again, probably going up to like 51% since they're nerfing her. I'm going to play it safe here. I don't think it's going to knock her all the way down. Let me go ahead and look up on my other monitor. She's currently sitting at a 50.78% win rate. I'll say she gets knocked down maybe a percentage. So probably somewhere between low 50 or high 49. We'll go ahead and put her there for now. And then the last change for supports in this patch is going to be the introduction of Milio. I did not play Milio on the PvE, and people who do play champions on PvE and make YouTube videos and stuff like that can sometimes be a little bit dramatic in their YouTube videos because they're trying to get views. I mean, I understand. I'm in the game too. So just because you see on YouTube like, oh, Milio, Giga OP, broken, full AP, nuclear one shots, that doesn't mean the champion is actually busted. I don't want to have too bold of a prediction for a champion that although I do understand the champion, I haven't played it. I haven't looked at the numbers. I haven't experienced playing the champion yet. I'll play it safe though. I think we're going to see something very similar to the Yumi numbers that we saw from this last patch. It is another Enchanter champion that has a new kit for people to learn. It's also supposed to be an easy champion. So, and then again, taking into the fact that it's a new champion, so people are going to struggle initially. Let's play it safe. Probably 50%, hopefully, maybe even 49. Ideally, for a new champion, you want to see it have a lower win rate because, again, that just means people are learning the champion, and as people learn it and perfect the champion, the win rate will eventually go up. If you see a champion that is new or new rework that has a high win rate, that means that it's just way too strong because as people learn the champion, it's only going to increase and increase and increase in the win rate. So I think Milio is going to be okay. It's not really Enchanter meta as a whole right now. As you can see, a lot of people at the top are going to be more of these hard engaged supports. And then a lot of the Enchanters are down here in like the 50 to 48 to 49% win rate. So those are all the changes. A couple things that I do want to point out because I had some YouTube comments last patch kind of critiquing some things. These are, or this tier list is based on win rates, but there are some things that you also need to take into account, such as pick rate. Like I said, all these champions down here in the not meta have a low pick rate, and that's why I don't include them because their data can be a little off with a small sample size. That same concept kind of applies for some of these champions up here. Vel'Koz, for example, does have a high win rate, but a small pick rate, and a lot of people who do play Vel'Koz are one tricks or people who main the champion. Taric is a champion that has consistently had a high win rate over the past few patches, but not a lot of people are picking him. So again, small sample size there. On the other side of things, though, there are some champions here who have a very high win rate as well as a very high pick rate. So when you have a large sample size and the champion is still showing to be very dominant in solo queue, those are the champions that you really want to focus on. So Annie is continuing to be very, very strong. I'm surprised, excuse me, that she hasn't been nerfed yet. Rakan, Rel, Blitzcrank, Thresh, very, very good, although he's going to be always a little bit stronger at higher ranks, so take that into consideration. The Senna buffs are still doing really well. Senna's continued to be really good. Maokai is one last one that I'll point out here because previous patches or previously in the season, Maokai was a strong support as an AP support with a high pick rate. He has been nerfed as an AP support, but he's still good as a tank support. Again, low pick rate there, so small sample size to base it off of. So I hope that kind of gives you a good idea of where a lot of these champions lie. If you want to do some digging into data yourself and look at pick rates to give yourself a better idea, I would recommend that. But as far as just win rates go, kind of taking out the factor of pick rates, this is how champions were last patch with some adjustments for the changes this patch. So this is kind of my recommended tier list for patch 13.6. I hope you guys were able to enjoy this video or find it helpful. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video or subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. That'll do it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.